Hey guys, we just wrapped up riding Honda's new 2021 CBR 1000RR Fireblade SP. This is Honda's top of the line superbike for the 2021 model year. Honda's been taking a beating over the last 5, 6, 7, realistically 10 years in the superbike class with its predecessor, the CBR 1000RR. That's always been a very excellent motorcycle, but realistically the European brands, BMW, Aprilia, Ducati, they've upped the bar in the superbike space. These motorcycles have become racier, more high performance, loaded with electronics that literally help you go faster. And Honda's always dragged its feet entering this modern superbike plus segment. Well, finally for 2021, they have the answer in this $28,500 RR. Starting with the engine, Honda went to work leveraging their MotoGP know-how. We hear that all the time, but the engine's slimmer, it's more narrow. The valve train has been redesigned. It now benefits from a finger follower valve train system. And what that does is it allows the engine to spin at a very high RPM. Bore and stroke have been modified. This thing's got bigger bore now, shorter stroke, all again for a power band that is very top end biased. These days, if you want to have a competitive superbike, you have to be able to rev it really high. And this thing revs high now. It's just night and day how much more power this engine has compared to the predecessor, and not even how much more power it has, just how apt it is to rev. Like, this thing wants to rev, where the old engine was a little bit sluggish and a little bit lazy, which is actually kind of good for some riders. This thing wants to be held wide open and just wants to rev and be ridden pinned. It's a very fun and awesome sounding engine. It almost sounds a little bit like BMW's S1000RR. You can really hear that finger follower valve train inside this engine. It's really, really cool. Honda's made extreme strides in the electronics department. They lagged in the sport bike electronics forever. And then finally in 2017, they unveiled a ride-by-wire throttle system, which realistically wasn't very good. Fast forward to this 2021 model, and they have the electronics dialed. The throttle response on this motorcycle is very natural without it being too abrupt. I would have liked to maybe seen adjustable throttle maps. The throttle maps are actually paired to the engine power modes. There's 5 modes. One was my favorite, which is max power. Again, it would be cool to actually be able to modify the throttle response a little bit in standard configuration. But even in that power mode 1, it was very good. You had good connection between the 200 series Pirelli Diablo Super Corsa SP tire and the throttle. Traction control on this system, I wasn't able to ride the bike hard enough to even have the traction control come in, but it's nice to know this CBR 1000RR has a very advanced system. They've worked on the IMU and the software programming to get the traction control to respond more accurately when wheel spin is detected. Wheelie control, engine brake control, I really liked. Typically I like motorcycles that freewheel a lot, don't have a lot of engine braking, but today, because this track is so fast and I'm a little bit out of shape, it was nice having a lot of engine braking. You put this thing in level 1 engine brake mode and it holds the bike back nicely under deacceleration. It just makes the bike easier to ride. Of course, once you start going faster, once you're in a little bit better shape and you can hold yourself up better on the brakes, that level 3 will be better because it just lets the bike freewheel into the corner, and the more momentum you have, the more speed you have, the faster lap time you have. So that's what you want to do. Chassis on this motorcycle, I was really just impressed with just the balance. Öhlins and Honda, they're really working hard to get this semi-active suspension to just work really well at a variety of tracks. So Thunder Hill Raceway, this track is a hard track on suspension. There's a lot of elevation, there's a lot of camber, hard braking, just a lot of places where you're really loading the suspension. In automatic mode, I couldn't believe how well the suspension just filtered out the road and gave good road holding. I felt really connected to the motorcycle. Even though the wheelbase is stretched considerably and the swing arm's longer, this thing is still very nimble, and it's stable, and it has good grip off the turns. Ergonomically, this motorcycle, it's got a meaner stance. The clip-ons are a little bit lower, a little bit more widely spaced. I like how the clip-ons are moving more outward like a race bike. This bike is very, very good for doing business at the road race track. The old CBR 1000RR was a little bit positioned towards smaller riders. They've opened up the cockpit on this thing. If you're a 6 foot tall guy, you'll be able to fit on this bike pretty well. And I like that because a lot of the contemporary leader and leader class above size bikes are all going back to being a little bit bigger now. That fits average and above size riders. So if you are a taller dude, you are gonna like sitting on this motorcycle. The brakes on this thing are a big improvement. I like the Brembo radial mount master cylinder. This is the first time Honda's used this master cylinder on a production bike. The brakes still do have a little bit of fade, but they fade in, and once they reach that point, it stays there. A much needed improvement in the braking package for the RR, so good job to Honda. Styling aerodynamics, Honda says that this motorcycle is the most slippery superbike available today. And we believe them. The windscreen's nice and tall. You know, when you're riding this thing at speed, it's a very comfortable, comfortable is a weird way to describe a riding position on a superbike, but a comfortable riding position. Everything's quiet, you have a good pocket. The fuel tank's real low now, so you can fit underneath that bubble and have a nice, cool and calm piece of air to think and maneuver around when you're at the racetrack. Overall, really impressed with what Honda's done for 2021 with this CBR RR. This is a fully bespoke superbike. If you're in the market for, you know, an R1M, a RSV4 1100, a Panigale V4, this should now be in your buying decision because it's fast, it's got excellent electronics, the chassis is dialed, and it has Honda's pedigree. Like, Honda's been building motorcycles for longer than anyone else, and they've been racing and winning at a high level longer than anyone else, and it shows in the pedigree of this CBR 1000 RR Fireblade SP. Well, there you guys go. There's a quick review of Honda's new leader class superbike. Make sure to surf on over to motorcyclistonline.com. That's where all of my written content goes. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you think I'm a moron, please tell me that and thumbs it down, and we'll see you guys next time.